Hello folks, this is Don Flemons, the American Songster, and you're listening to the Shelter in Place Sessions. Now it's a pleasure to be here. I'm going to start off with a little number that for me is an arrangement I put together thinking about my Southwest roots here. And this is a number that was originally recorded by Henry Ragtime Texas Thomas from Eastern Texas. He recorded for the Vocalion label in 1927, 1928, and 29. And he recorded about 23 numbers. And so for this one here, I'm going to be playing the quills, or the panpipes, just like Henry Thomas featured on those original recordings. And then I'll be featuring my good friend Big Head Joe, the giant six-string banjo, backing me up. And a lot of the way that I tend to play this one is I tend to put a little bit of a 2/4 and a little oscillating bass, mimicking the sound of the bajo sexto. And so let's get a little bit of Charmin Betsy.
I'm going round the mountain, Charmin Betsy, going round the mountain to a lee. If I never see you no more, do Lord remember me. The first time I seen Charmin Betsy, on everything that you see. Last time I seen Charmin Betsy, wearing that ball and chain. Yes, I'm going round the mountain, Charmin Betsy, going round the mountain to a lee. If I never see you no more, do Lord remember me. Now I'm going round the mountain, Charmin Betsy, going round the mountain to a lee. If I never see you no more, do Lord remember me. Now Charmin Betsy's going on down the line, wine glass in her hand, going after her old man. These are the very words she said. She's gonna say, oh my babe, take me back. I'm not well, Lord, take me back. Sunday morning won't seem wrong. You gonna call me, I'll be gone. She turned around 2 and 3 times, say my babe, take me back, take me back, take me back. Well, my babe, take me back. Make me 1 pound on your floor, make me 1 pound on your floor. Oh, make a pallet soft and low. You make it so your man will never know. Oh, make it so your man will never know. Make it so your man will never know. Lord have mercy. Oh, make a pallet soft and low. You make it so your man will never know. 'Cause I'm looking for that bully of the town. Looking for that bully of the town. I'm looking for that bully can't be found. I'm looking for that bully, lay me down.
Thank you so much, folks. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this very next one I'm going to do is another one from my Black Cowboys album. This is a song that I wrote after reading the autobiography of a famous black cowboy by the name of Nat Love. And you know, actually, funny enough, New Mexico is actually wrapped up in the in my knowing about Nat Love. You know, I was over at the Painted Desert when I was actually making my way back from North Carolina to Phoenix. I stopped off over at the Painted Desert National Park, and I happened to find a copy of the Negro Cowboys over at the gift shop. And yeah, from that point on, I started to research everything I could find about African American cowboys and the black Western culture that they represent. And so that was something that drew me in. And of course, I always think about you know, everything from the landscapes and the mesas to New Mexico, as well as, you know, having full-on Christmas when you get a chance to get a chimichanga or a nice burrito in, you know. So I love all that, you know. Thinking about that, actually, yeah, let me get a little bit of this one here, Steel Pony Blues. I might do a little bit of hot chicken after this one here just to get us riled up, but we're going to go ahead and start up with Steel Pony Blues here. So the main line of this one is I caught my steel pony and boys, I'm gonna ride, and it goes a little something like this. Got that steel pony riding. When you get down to Holbrook, you won't find me there. Good Lord, I caught the first thing smoking down the road somewhere. Caught the first thing smoking down the road somewhere. 'Cause I caught my steel pony and boys, I'm gonna ride. Getting far too old to follow this here herd. Good Lord, I caught the first thing smoking down the road somewhere. Caught the first thing smoking down the road somewhere. 'Cause I caught my steel pony and boys, I'm gonna ride. Go ahead and get it now, 6. Now they call me Mr. Flemons, 'cause I'm a pull porter now. Good Lord, I caught the first thing smoking down the road somewhere. Caught the first thing smoking down the road somewhere. 'Cause I caught my steel pony and boys, I'm gonna ride. Go ahead and get it one time, 6. Now they call me Mr. Flemons, 'cause I done tore that guitar down. Good Lord, I caught the first thing smoking down the road somewhere. Now when you get over there, you won't find me, 'cause I caught my steel pony and boys, I'm gonna ride. Go ahead and get it one more time, 6. Take it 6-6. Yeah, Route 66. Well folks, this next one here is one of the classic cowboy songs. A lot of folks ask me, what was the most surprising thing that you found when you were doing your research for black cowboys? And one of the stories that really surprised me, amongst them all actually, was the story of Jack Thorpe, who was the first person to document cowboy songs and was the first person to publish his own book solely dedicated to cowboys. And he did this in 1908, and that was 2 years before John A. Lomax did his own academic study on cowboys, which was the Cowboy Songs and Frontier Ballads. And so in Jack Thorpe's autobiography, Pardoner of the Wind, he mentions that when he first started working out in New Mexico, actually he was, I believe he was working for Addison Jones, and when he got into the cow camp, he found a group of black cowboys playing the banjo, singing songs about their cutting horses, and it inspired him so much that he started to write down the verses. And right as he began to write those verses and began to ask the cowboys about the other verses they might know to these songs, he found that no one cowboy knew more than 2 verses to any given song. And so it started him on a quest to go all the way up the trail to learn all of the verses to some of the best known cowboy songs, which he found to be unique. And the way he described them is that they were born out of the loneliness on the range and the hard work that the men had to do. And it was sort of just a thing that all the working people did just to kind of pass the time. And for me, that's the sort of the way we think of the blues nowadays. And while cowboy music and the blues are two separate genres, I feel like there are moments where they cross over. And so I kind of decided to do a somewhat Piedmont blues style of an old cowboy song that Jack Thorpe wrote. It was the very first song in his book, Songs of the Cowboys, and it's called Little Joe the Wrangler. Little Joe the Wrangler will never wrangle more. His days with the remuda, they are done. 'Twas a year ago last April he joined the outfit here, a little Texas stray and all alone. 'Twas long late in the evening he rode up to the herd on a little old brown pony he called Chaw. With his brogan shoes and overalls, a harder looking kid you never in your life had seen before. His saddle was a southern cack built many years ago, an OK spur on one foot idly hung, and his hot roll in a cotton sack was loosely tied behind, and a canteen on the saddle horn he'd slung. He said he'd had to leave his home, his daddy'd married twice, and his new ma beat him every day or two. So he saddled up old Chaw one night and lit a shuck this way. Thought he'd try to paddle his own canoe. Said he'd try and do the best he could if we'd only give him work, but he didn't know straight up about a cow. So the boss he cut him out a mount and kindly put him on, for he sorta liked the little stray somehow. Taught him how to herd the horses, learned to know them all, to round 'em up by daylight if he could, to follow the chuck wagon and to always lead the team, and help the cocinero rustle wood. We'd driven to Red River and the weather had been fine. We were camped out on the south side in a bend, when the norther commenced a blowin', and we doubled up our guard, for it took all hands to hold the cattle then. Little Joe the Wrangler was called out with the rest, and scarcely had the kid got to the herd, when the cattle they stampeded like a hailstorm long they flew, and all of us were riding for the lead. Between the streaks of lightning you could hear a horse ahead. 'Twas Little Joe the Wrangler in the lead. He was riding old Blue Rocket with a slicker above his head, trying to check the leaders in their speed. At last we got them millin' and kind of quieted down, and the double-back guard went to the camp to go. but one of them was missing, and we all knew at a glance 'twas our little Texas stray, poor Wrangler Joe. Next morning just at sunup, we found where Rocket fell, out in the washout 20 feet below. Beneath his horse, mashed to a pulp, his horse had rung the knell on our little Texas stray, poor Wrangler Joe. And I dedicate that to my good friend Don Edwards and my other good friend Andy Hedges for really getting me acquainted with that song. I'd always loved it before, but when I saw Don Edwards perform it, that's what really made me want to put it into my repertoire. Another song, I guess, that's touches upon some Southwest history. This is another one I wrote, one called Bass Reeves. This is about the very first Deputy U.S. Marshal west of the Mississippi who was African American, and he's said to have been the historical basis for the fictional character the Lone Ranger. And so I decided to take my cues from the late Lightning Hopkins and write a little song called He's a Lone Ranger about his adventures. So here we go with a little bit of He's a Lone Ranger. U.S. Marshal and a Lone Ranger. He's a U.S. Marshal and a Lone Ranger. He's a Lone Ranger, Bass Reeves is his name. There was a man way out west, rode around this country with a star on his breast. Every white man and Indian tribe, he was the baddest man that ever was alive. He's a U.S. Marshal and a Lone Ranger. He's a Lone Ranger, Bass Reeves is his name. Broad-shouldered and 6 feet tall, rode a sorrel that could outrun them all. Master of a pistol, master of disguise, he looked every man he caught down dead in the eyes. 'Cause he's a U.S. Marshal and a Lone Ranger. He's a Lone Ranger, Bass Reeves is his name. Born a slave down in Arkansas, lived with his master and his dear old mom. Mama said, son, you ain't free, but you can do anything you want, though if the mister don't see. Now he's a U.S. Marshal and a Lone Ranger. He's a Lone Ranger, Bass Reeves is his name. Master called Bass used to a gambling game. Bass's freedom was the stake that he made. Now Master cheated, you ought to heard the sound of Bass's hoof beats as Master hit the ground. Now he's a U.S. Marshal and a Lone Ranger. He's a Lone Ranger, Bass Reeves is his name. Take a 6. Bass Reeves break into song, get down to business and it won't be long. Winning Muskogee 100 miles around, they call him Bass Reeves, he's bound to track you down. 'Cause he's a U.S. Marshal and a Lone Ranger. He's a Lone Ranger, Bass Reeves is his name. Well, ladies and gentlemen, these next couple of numbers are some of the bluegrass styles and some of the banjo styles that I've picked up over time. This first one's Long Journey Home from the Monroe Brothers. Sing along if you know it.
Shelley is a train, Shelley is a train, Lord, Shelley is a train. Like smoke arising, Shelley is a train. I'm on my long journey home, 'cause I lost all my money but a $2 bill, $2 bill, Lord, a $2 bill. Lost all my money but a $2 bill. I'm on my long journey home.
All right, now for a little banjo breakdown. Let's get it going. Po Black Sheep.
Oh, land
that banjo ringing across the fields. Now folks, we're going to take it back just a little bit into a little bit of a deeper look into the roots just for a moment, and I'm going to play you a bit of this gourd banjo that was made for me by Bob Thornburg, and it features the little Sankofa birds here. Of course, Sankofa being a West African proverb meaning go back and fetch it. Catch the things from the past, bring them into the present, into the future. And this is a song I've kept with me for a long time, Old Corn Liquor. This is one from Joe Thompson, the wonderful African-American fiddler who I got to play with for many, many years when I was living in North Carolina. And so this is one that he used to do the square dance calls for. So here's Old Corn Liquor. Old corn liquor, old corn liquor.